Hey, Tal.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Very, very good.
Good. So you've just come back off a successful campaign. It would be great to ask you a couple of questions about your time that you spent on Virginia Water, I believe.
It was, yes.
Excellent. I suppose the first thing to kind of cover off really is to just sort of set the scene. So if you're able to sort of give us a bit of a high-level overview about the water, kind of what attracted you to it.
I just come off the back of a campaign on Hollybush Pit 5, caught all I needed on there, and I was kind of looking for somewhere else to go. And that name came up, Virginia Water came up, and I thought, it could be good, but 145 acres, I'll do one night a week, I turn up after work, I'm gone by 10, 11 in the morning, so that's a big ask. So I thought, nothing to lose, I might as well give it a bash, and I went down there, and actually, the first session I went down there, I literally turned up and spotted a load of salt in an area that looked good. It was springtime. I just wanted to try and get something going. Actually, it might have been autumn.
What time of the year did you get your ticket?
I think actually it was autumn time. I think it was kind of November time, perhaps, something around that. So I thought, I'll just go and put a bit of salt in there and prep it for the spring, summer. So, but yeah, the area that I was based in, I didn't end up fishing for a few years.
Yeah, fair enough. I suppose it does take a little bit of time to kind of unlock a few things, doesn't it?
Mate, it's a big water. Yeah, and you can't just lap this place. It's a 5-mile radius. So you can't just turn up and go, I'm going to look for the fish. It doesn't work like that. Not my time.
I suppose it comes with its challenges as well. I mean, there must be all sorts of different things going on a kind of, hourly, daily basis, right?
Honestly, the public, their dogs, riding through dog muck, walking through dog muck, they leave litter everywhere. Everybody wants to know what you're doing, what you're catching in there, can you eat it, that sort of stuff. If you're visible, they'll ask you questions. So if you're near to like a pathway or something, you kind of want to hide in the bivvy, otherwise it's just monotonous, it's just the same old questions. But challenges, I mean, the problem you've got there, it's a big old lake, and you've got two main car parks. So you've got the Pavilion car park and the South car park. And when the South car park's shut, which it is every time it seems to be windy, then you've only got one car park to use. So you might be travelling 1.5 miles to a swim.
Right.
So, in the early days, I started barrowing it, and then I thought, this isn't working. So I then adapted a kid's trailer to carry the fishing gear. And that sort of did a really good job for me. But that is an art form, balancing it out right. Because if you put all the weight over the sort of axle, as it were, that kind of makes the most sense in your head till you go up a slope. When you go up a slope, all the weight falls backwards, and it lifts the front of the trailer and lifts the back wheel of the bike. Then suddenly your legs aren't doing anything and you fall off your bike. And I've had that happen at least twice. If you put the weight too much to the front, it hits the floor. So again, you go down a slope, it hits the floor, you fall off your bike and it tips over. Going around corners, if it's weighted one side or the other, guess what? It tips over. So I'd probably pick that barrow up, I reckon, 12 to 15 times.
So already, I mean, in this, and I take it that's within the first sort of few seasons, really, but already you kind of you've got to have a bit of grit, right, to kind of, get past these bits and pieces.
That's it. I mean, if you've just walked one of the swims I was targeting early doors was a 1.2 mile walk or a cycle. But if you've walked it because you didn't take the bike for whatever reason, or before I started riding there, you get there, someone's in it. It's not great. And then you just got to carry on walking, and actually you'll get further from the car park every time. So, that's the challenge. But yeah, on an overnighter again, and actually, especially if you're talking about these sort of the autumn time where you're getting dark earlier on. Yeah. Again, you kind of want to be established in a swim before it gets too dark. So
it's interesting you're saying about getting a ticket in November, and we're sort of, talking about this now, and it's November, right? And I think it's been dark as early as just gone sort of 4:15 recently. So, when you're doing a lot of overnighters in terms of like one overnighter a week sort of thing. So you're kind of getting there when it's dark at this point, aren't you?
Yeah, you kind of, I mean, you're racing the time. You're always racing against the sort of sun going down. But the trouble is obviously you get to the lake, and then you've got to get to the swim, and then you've got to get the gear out, and then you've got to get the rods set and your rods out in place. I'm the worst person in the world for being meticulous over casting. Like, I will happily cast 20 times if I have to, because they've got to be out right. If they're not right, they're wrong. So I won't leave them unless I'm absolutely set that they're perfect. And I've had it where I've taken 7, 8 casts for one rod. But again,
you've got to have confidence, haven't you?
Of course you do. It's got to be absolutely on the money. And I'm tramlining as well. Like I'm fishing, it's 28 wraps to the spot, and my lines can be that far apart all the way down. So, that's what I'm looking for. Because I learned a few years ago, if you've got 2 rods on the spot, you do get bonus bites that you probably wouldn't have before. Otherwise, you've got recast and you're causing commotion.
So I guess when you first come onto the water, you said a minute ago about adding some salt sort of to a spot.
Yes.
But what was your initial kind of baiting strategy, and what were you kind of looking to do to begin with, and how did that evolve over the first sort of couple of years?
Do you know what, honestly, so for as long as I can remember, I've fished little waters, 6 to 10 acres, whatever, and I'm an edge fisherman, as you know, and I always look for carp in the margins and convenient fishing under the tips, that sort of thing. And Hollybush played really into my hands, and it was really nice to me. But then you go to Virginia water, and of course, the first thing you go is, well, where do I start? Because it's a big lake, but it's not like a big bowl. It's not like they're out of casting range at any place in the lake, really. You can get to them from any side, all sides of the lake. But there's like arms and stuff. So when I first arrived on the scene, I sort of had led around in an area that looked pretty good near a car park. And I did that for a little while, and I thought I'll put the salt in there just because they'll want it come spring. So I thought if I can just build up an amount of salt in the area, then come spring, they're where I want them to be. And that's how I've fished. I've pre-baited a lot over the years, and I just kind of wanted to put the odds in my favour. But I quickly realised that the arms were where the fish would be in the spring. And as soon as the weather warms up, you've got the shallower water, it warms up quicker. That's where the fish would be. And actually, where I started my campaign was exactly that. There was a little waterfall coming in. The fish are always up there, and you could see them. And if you can see them, they're there. They're catchable potentially. It's rather than just rocking up and being a mile from a fish.
So I guess from an actual bait perspective,
yes.
What did you go in with first to begin with?
I've never been a big baiter. I mean, I don't pay for bait, so I'm all right. But I don't bait heavy, so I was probably doing 2 kilos a night, maybe, if that, maybe not even that much, just sticking it out. I was fishing 80 yards in that first swim I targeted. It just worked, done a few baits out there, maybe 50 baits around the sort of area. And it was all right, I mean, back then it was all about, I want to catch a fish. I've joined the lake, I want to get a carp under my belt.
Of course you do, yeah.
And once you caught one, you sort of go, well, I can crack this. And then you keep sort of doing it. And I was catching loads of stockies, like I was catching a lot of little fish, and the odd sort of 20 came along. But every time I tried to fish a different area, if I blanked, I thought, I should have been in there.
Yeah.
And it kind of was eating at me. I've got to be back in there, because I thought I was just going to bore them out in a way. But, you play to your strengths, and actually you can flit around on a water that size, but if you can be in a regular area, at least you've got the bait going in. All right, it's only once a week, but it's still going in, rather than turning up fresh in a different place, a mile apart from another place. It's just trying to sort of build that regularity, because I can't go and pre-bait there. It's not. I've got the kids, obviously, they go to bed at 7. So for me to go and pre-bait means leaving the house at gone 7 at night, going to the lake, which is 40 minutes drive. Then you've got to get to the swim, put the bait out, back to the car, back home. You're talking 2 to 3 hour round trip. I can't do it. I've done it before and it's done really well for me, but it's just not an option for me on this occasion. So
I suppose even more so the importance of having bait that you're kind of confident in then as well at the end of the day, so that when you are putting your bait out at the beginning of your session and your short session, you want to know that it's going to be acting and reacting very quickly at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I started off on, obviously, DT, I started off with the fish blood and orange because it's got a good heritage of catching bigger, older fish, and that's what I like. So I thought that's the one. And yeah, I caught loads of fish and I caught lots of stockies, because it just happened to be that pretty much as I joined, they put about 150 stockies in there. So suddenly, my chance of catching a big one has just been diluted by 150. So yeah, I went in with the fish blood and orange because I thought it was going to be the one. And then as it got into the sort of the colder months, and I wanted to sort of keep using amounts of bait. I then went on to superfruit, which smells fantastic, by the way. And again, I caught well on it. I caught well on both of those baits, but as soon as Crustasia was released, suddenly that was a different thing, because that's not fish meal. It's got Crustasia meal in it, and there's lots of milk proteins as well. So it's not a fish meal bait at all. It smells like one, people think it is, but it's not. And because of the milk proteins, it breaks down quite quickly. So, as soon as I got on that, you're using it all year. If you change bait into the winter, you've been feeding them all year on that bait, and then you change it. So the Crustasia it allowed me to just fish all the way through with one bait.
All year round?
Yeah, same bait all year. So it just makes sense. They're getting used to eating it. Even if I don't catch them that session, if they're not in that swim or that area for 2 days, they're going to eat it eventually.
Of course.
And the more of it they eat, the more it becomes a natural food source to them. So.
And I guess from a hook bait perspective, then, were you kind of like matching the hatch with like a bottom bait, or were you going in with a pop up? How were you kind of fishing that? And did that change when you first started, and then as we kind of get on to where you kind of ended up recently?
Yeah.
Did that change much, or?
So initially I was fishing an area you had to be really close to a tree to sort of stand a chance of getting a bite, or it felt that way. And I was fishing, I always fish wafters. Like I don't like bottom baits because I just feel that the weight of them will help the hook to turn into leaves and stuff on the bottom. So I typically fish wafters, just a little bit lighter, fly up in the mouth a little bit easier. But obviously, depending on time of year, I fish a really low pop-up. And again, just to settle on leaflets, I always fish heli rigs, especially in somewhere like that where you've got a little leaf litter because of a lot of trees. So I started off, I think I was just fishing wafters and pop-ups. I always had a white one out there. Again, you kind of think...
Something about a white bait, isn't it? Especially on like a public water where there's plenty of, ducks and people feeding bread and things.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I will always, on a canal or on a lake, so like you said, a lake where there's a lot of ducks and bird life getting fed by the public, some of that bread's going to make it to the bottom. So I'll always have a white hook bait. But yeah, the other ones would generally match the hatch. So a couple of match the hatch wafters, one white one, just a bit blatant, a little bit of a lure perhaps. But you kind of feel like it's either it's going to be great because they're going to home in on it, or it's going to just catch you a load of little fish because they're a bit green and, all the bigger ones are a bit wise to it maybe. But actually, and I'll go back to that later in the story because it's interesting. I don't know what it is with me. I look for patterns, always have done, and I look for patterns in my fishing. And then they're not even like beneficial. They're just things I observe. But there was something that I noticed was happening. And again, I'll go back to it at the end with the white baits. So if I forget, remind me.
Okay, no problem. So I guess confidence levels are pretty good to a point where you've had your first sort of couple of seasons, and you've certainly, you've caught some. It's a big water, it's sort of a bit alien initially, and you've got your confidence now in terms of catching them. I suppose in terms of, bringing things round to your latest capture, and this season in particular, was there a particular turning point where things started to become a bit more clear about what you needed or wanted to do?
Do you know what? My arm was forced. So I was fishing that same old place, and I did move around. I'm painted a picture that I was a bit of a swim band. I was this season, but previously I fished predominantly one area. I did fish other areas, caught a few, lost a few. The losses, mate, honestly, the snags are fairly bad in places, but the mussels in there, seriously, like zebra mussels on zebra mussels, swan mussels with zebra mussels on them. I caught...
Ferocious.
Mate, it sounds really like typical sort of thing. I caught a boot, like...
Boot?
Yeah, I caught a boot.
Like a welly
workman's boot.
Oh, workman's boot.
And I'll tell you what, it was alive. It was covered.
You'll have to put a picture of that in here somewhere if you've got it.
I think I've got it, and I'll put it in there if I've got it, yeah. I also pulled in like a great big long branch, and mate, honestly, it was covered in them. Absolutely covered. And you think your lines are draped over these, and I use OGX, thinking OGX, and it's heavy, it sinks nice, and of course it follows contours and all the rest of it. But you start thinking, well, Christ, it's laying across razor blades, basically.
Yeah.
And actually, I've had a couple of takes where I've lost the fish on the take, it's just cut through. So anyway, I digress. So I caught a lot of stockies, and it became evident in that particular swim that there were a few resident fish. I caught a couple twice. There was one fish I caught, and next year I caught one. That looks like one I had last year, I think. And then, unbelievably, I caught it the third time, and I thought, I look back through the photos, 100% the same fish.
Yeah.
I am not fishing this swim ever again. I red-carded myself. Absolutely no way, under any condition, no matter how bad things are, I will never set foot in that swim again. And I didn't. So it forced me to get on my feet and do other things. And I targeted a little few areas, moved around again, couldn't settle. And actually, I kind of reverted back to an area that I'd fished a little bit on and off over the couple of years. But it's basically you're fishing across towards an area. There's one island on the lake, a little island, and there's the land that sort of goes around it on one side. So if you imagine there's like an L shape of land, and you got the island, and you can fish from this side or from this side. Well, this side was where I was fishing from previously, and that caught me all the little ones. And then I kind of felt that there's a lot of fish activity because they're up that arm, they're coming round. There's no way in a million years they're not going around that island. No. There's no way. And you can't fish around there, so it's a sanctuary. They're 100% going to be in there. So it was kind of a point, it was obvious really that they're going to go in there. So I figured if I fish on this side of it, it's great, but you've got effectively what looks like a canal section of lake. Where it narrows, and then it sort of opens up that end, and it kind of opens up that end, and then goes off down another arm. So you're fishing in this area. You're on the south bank facing north, and the winds are cutting left to right or right to left, and the crosswinds are savage in there. And casting to the other side, to where you need to be, it's a chuck. And the winds can play havoc with it. So it's not the best, it's not the most comfortable swim. And, the winds play a problem because you've got to cast your rods in sequence to the way the wind's going. So if the wind's coming from the left, you've got to get the left rod out, sink it down, tighten up the line so it's proper tight, then do the middle one, do the same thing, then do the right hand one. Because if you don't, you're going to get the undertows and it'll just be a mess.
And as good as we all know we are with casting sometimes, in that situation where it's dark as well, don't forget in some of this, part of the year, you're almost kind of doing it by kind of moonlight bit as well, aren't you? And trying to feel where you are and looking at where everything is.
Trying to bang the middle rod back out at night. I mean, the gap that you've got is not huge. It's, I don't know, like 20, 30 yards, I guess, but that's tight at distance. So I kind of decided, having fished a little few areas, I thought I'm going to go back in there because I just feel like it's the right area. But also, I knew that my target fish liked that area. And I'd kind of said, I want apples. That's the one I want to catch. And I said it to the bailiffs. I said it to Andy, who runs the syndicate. Back then, it was kind of like wishful thinking, like in an ideal world, that would come along. And I just kind of, I didn't target it to begin with because I'm on a 145 acre lake doing one night a week. And realistically, I'm not going to get a chance of a fish like that, am I? I didn't dare to believe it could be done because why would I catch it? I don't have a lot of time. People do 2 nights, don't have 3 nights even. So I didn't really dare to believe that I could catch it.
Did it have a history at all of coming out in that zone by your knowledge as such? Or?
That area, yes. But when we talk about an area, I'm not talking about that swim because I don't know if it's come out of that swim before.
Right.
I just know it likes that area.
Yeah.
So, that area is quite a big bit of water covered by realistically 1, 2, 3, probably 6 to 7 swims probably cover the sort of area that we're talking about. And that's over a bit of stretch as well. So, you couldn't nail it. It's not like it comes out 20 every week. It's not like that. It does like 1 catcher a year pretty much. And it's generally around that area. But the last capture of it was, I think it was actually the very, very start of this year. And I don't know where it was. I don't know where it got caught because I couldn't tell from the pictures.
Yeah, fair enough. So tell me about this session. How did it start?
The session?
The session.
Okay. I mean, I could tell you about another big fish I caught if you want to hear about that.
Oh, yeah, go on then, yeah. Talk about that.
Yeah. So, yeah, before we get to the real good story, so, I mean...
You're just the guy that keeps on giving tale here, aren't you? You've got another story.
This year, I decided that I had... Everyone's in my ear, loads of people in my ear, just give it up. You know, you're not going to, you're just like, it's like winning the lottery. You know, you're just fishing all this time and you might never catch one of these big ones. So there's loads of other places. It's all right. You can walk away. You know, you don't have to be ashamed. You've caught a few. And I'm not having it. I won't, I can't. It's just not in me.
Coming back to that grit piece again, I think, isn't it?
I've just done 3 winters on there prior to this year, and I've done 5-month blanks. But I will not give up. I won't go somewhere easier because people say, just go somewhere where you got a chance of a bite. No, because a fish out there is worth more than any other else. Yeah. So, yeah, I just kept at it. And so anyway, so I decided that this is the last season. I called it. I said to everybody, I'm not going to renew. This is it. This is the last chance. So for that reason, I've decided I've got to be in the right place. So I've decided where I'm going to fish. So I've gone in there, peg 35. This is where I need to be. It's going to come out from this area. I'm in the right sort of place. So I've caught a few fish out of there. It's going all right. I'm doing okay. And now I've upped my baiting. I'm probably putting 3 to 4 kilos a night out when I fish.
Crustacean still?
Crustacean. And I'm fishing over to the bit they call the moat. And yes, I'm scattering the bait about with a spom. So I don't want it all in one spot. I want the area. I want the fish moving about. So I'm spomming across a line. I'm walking back a bit, spomming across, and just getting a good covering everywhere. And this season's been tough. Like, everyone's struggled. Everybody's that I've spoken to's had a tough time, bar maybe 1 or 2. And I was catching them when they were there, and I wasn't always on them. And it's one of those things where you go, well, why weren't you on it? You look for the fish. There's a lot of anglers that will go, I wouldn't set up in a swim until I've seen a fish. And that's great, but I knew I had to be in that area, so I didn't want to go too far away. But, equally, they don't show loads on there. It's not, when I join, people say they never show. They do show. They just don't show loads. But it's certain times and you've got to be up at night and stuff. So they show, but you can't just pitch up and expect to see a dozen shows and go, right, I'm going that swim. It doesn't work like that on there. It's just not that kind of place. So, yeah, I bored it out a little bit. I was a swim bandit. I did all the things. It's lazy angling, I suppose you could call it, but I knew I had to be there or thereabouts. And I was clocking up these fish, and they were getting bigger. Like all the other seasons, I've had all these little ones, and I've had a couple of little ones here, but they're getting bigger. I'm getting more 20s, more upper 20s. And then this one night, I was down there, so I'd actually managed to book a day's holiday. Bit of a short notice thing, but
time of the year was this?
This was in, I think it was May.
Okay.
So I booked a day's holiday because I said to Claire, there was a few times I couldn't fish this season for various things, working shows and stuff, and I couldn't make it to the lake, and it was hurting me because I knew. I said to Claire, I've got to put more effort in. I've got to do something. If I can't put more effort in, if I can't up my game, I don't stand a chance of catching these fish. And I couldn't. I tried to pre-bait. I decided, look, if I'm going to do it, I've got to do it now. So I went up there to pre-bait, and somebody was in the swim the night before I was going to fish it. So I was like, I got chatting to him, and it quite quickly transpired that he was in the same swim for the same reason as me. We're both fishing for the same fish. He does 2 nights a week. He's a good angler, and he knows the score. And we got chatting and that, and it was all nice. And we enjoy a lot of banter over the texting and stuff. And he's a good guy. So he said, look, if you catch it, I'll be pleased for you, and all the rest of it. And likewise. So it was a bit annoying. I couldn't do the pre-baiting thing. So again, I was like, what do I do? I've got to do something. I've got to force the issue. So I've always put DNA in my baits, but now I decided, right, I've got to make everything as best as it can be. So all the rigs had to be proper, like checked and stuff like that. The bait, what I would do the day before, so 24 hours before I go, I'd put a load of the liquid DNA all over the bait, which has got oils in it and lots of flavour. So the oils repel the flavouring, so it's very attractive. It floats up in the water column. And I put a load of that in the bait as it comes out of the freezer, a load of boiling water in there to just about cover the bait, and the lid goes on. That's it, done. And then the next day, like I give it a shake every few hours, that kind of thing, make sure it's all coated. So by the time we get to the lake, the bait's already started to soften. It's proper infused with flavour, and you drop one in the edge, and like you get all the slick coming off. Exactly that. Yeah. So you get the slick, so you know it's working. So that became my. I've got to do it every time. Always, out of freezer, DNA, water, every time religiously, because that was the one thing I felt I could do to give me the best advantage when the fish do move in, to sort of hold them in the area. Because again, if there's bait to eat, they'll eat it. If there's no bait to eat, they'll look for it because they can smell it. So turned up to do this session because I blanked for these 4 or 5 nights. I think it was for 4 or 5 weeks, as I say. I had fished a different swim, and I turned up for this 2-nighter thinking, right, I'm going to go in there because it just felt good and I had an occurrence. So I went into this I went towards this other swim, and there was an angler in there, and I thought, I don't believe it. So I kind of thought, okay, all right, well, I'll go to 35 then, because I've been fishing it, or it hasn't done a fish for a while, and they seem to have moved out of the area. But again, it's the right spot to be in for apples. So I went down to that swim. It was free, and I must have been stood there 2 minutes, and a carp stuck his head out just up to the gill plates, and I thought they're back.
Yeah.
That night, they were sloshing in and out. I mean, there was so much activity crashing down there. You saw them coming out to the wrist of the tail, sort of thing. So, I mean, this is the mother load. I'm going to have them. And I was really confident. That night I had I think the first fish I had was a 28-pound mirror, which to date was my biggest carp out of the lake. So that was good.
Very good. And
then I kind of felt in the morning, if that guy's gone, I'm going to move down there, which is a bit weird, really, because I just caught a 28-pounder. But so I reeled in after maybe 11 o'clock, went down, he's still there. So, okay, right, I've resigned myself. I'm going back in 35. I don't know why I saw that as a bad thing, to be fair, but so I went back in there and I got my game on. I'm in it now, make the most of it, build swim. So what I did all day long, so this is about 11 o'clock, as I say, all day I'd put a couple of spoms out, like every hour, 2 hours, just a couple of spoms, 2, 3 spoms, something like that, just to keep something going in. Just, a bit of bait, whatever, a bit of flavour, just build the swim. I didn't put any rods out for the day. And then in the evening, got the rods out about, I suppose, 5 o'clock or something like that. That evening, I got a run. So I got a bite, and I fished tight clutches, and it's pulled up tight, and I run out, and I just felt the line, just bowstring tight. Okay, unclipped it, lifted the rod up. It's done me in a snag. So, for God's sake, keeping the pressure on the fish. And I kind of felt it move a little bit. I was like, oh, come on, don't come off. Please don't come off. Please don't come off. And then I just suddenly felt it move to the left. Christ, it wasn't a snag. I thought it was under a branch or something. What the hell am I attached to? So I started sort of bringing it back, and then it swam towards me. So I'm sort of getting in the waders, because I always get in the waders and walk down the right-hand margin so I can play the fish away from the other rods, because I don't want any issues. So I always do the same thing. So I walk down there, and it's coming at me, so winding in. And then I get it sort of quite close, and I get a head torch on, and I see this fish it's bloody ridiculous. It's 4 foot long and a load of linear scales. Christ, that's a worldie. So then it's charged off down the left, threatening to go near one of the other rods, and I've just managed to turn it in time. And then I sort of got it back over and got the net under it, sort of lifted the net up, and I had to shuffle the rest of the fish in there because it's so long. And I got it in the edge, and I thought, yeah, that's all right. At least it's a good one. And I kind of flippantly thought it was an upper 20 or 30 maybe. So I got it in the edge, and I looked at it. I thought, full row linear scales, and I thought, looks like the wood carving. And that's the last fish that Nick had on his video. And I thought, it can't be the wood carving. The wood carving's like a proper big one. That's like well into the 30s. And this is not. And then I kind of looked at it a bit more. I thought, you know, it might actually be £30. So I got the net there and I sat on the edge of the bed trying to get my head together because, you know, this is like exciting. And I thought, I've got to weigh it. I have to weigh it right now.
Definitely.
So I weighed it and it spun around £38. That's it. It's the wood carving. So yeah, it was unbelievable. Like it wasn't on my radar. You know, I just didn't even consider that I'd catch that fish. But you know, I was just fishing for a fish at the early days, and then of course I've got this. I've got to have apples this season, and that comes along. And I mean, you're never going to shake it off at the edge.
Of course you're not. No.
But I just didn't even think I would have a chance to catch that fish because it does. Yeah, I mean. It's been caught a few times, but it's not like it's out every 6 weeks or something. So yeah, I didn't even consider it. But yeah, I was absolutely over the moon.
It certainly seems like it started to come together for you in this session. You know, you've got the 28, which is the biggest fish to date in the sort of 2-3 years that you've now been angling on.
And then a bigger one again.
And then the following day, you back it up or supersede it with the wood carving at £10 bigger at 38. So. You know, I guess the baiting had certainly made a bit of an impact.
They like that bait.
Doing that.
They really seem to like it, yeah. You know, and actually that's the thing because the least of my concerns was the bait. You know, I knew they liked it. They were well on it. I caught 2 more fish that session, only little ones. Funnily enough, actually, I've got it on video. Whilst I had the wood carving in the net in the side, I think in the retainer, I think I was about to do water shots or something, and I'm just literally stood there, and the other rod's gone off. So I've got all that on video, and I've got that one in. It was, I don't know, 16 or 20 pounds or something. I forget now, but yeah. So yeah, that was good. I ended up on 4 fish. So yeah, I mean, weirdly, I had a lot of blanks. So the whole season, I had 26 nights. I blanked 16 of those. So I only actually caught fish on 10 nights. 10 nights, yeah. But I ended on 22 carp. So, I mean...
few sessions with multiple captures going on, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to manage your expectations. You know, when you do overnighters, you have to accept that you're not going to catch as many fish as the other guys. And this is the thing that's always irked me about the top rod sort of thing. You know, oh, he's top rod on here. It's all relative to what you're doing. You know, if I'm doing 2 nights, 3 nights a week, you better believe I'll be catching more than 22 in a session, in a season, sorry. But yeah, so yeah, that was that. And, yeah.
Well, off the back of that, we're sort of still in May.
Yeah.
Bringing it round to apples, which is the, you know, most recent kind of capture for you, really. And obviously a bit of a pinnacle in your kind of angling career up to date, really.
Because of what it was.
Because of what it was. And the fact that you've kind of gone into this campaign with that one fish in mind, you know, capturing that. Tell us about this session.
So, yeah, it's a bit of a blur now. My brain's gone. I just turned up and did the things I do normally. I'd have one match to hatch pop up, and I'd have one white pop up. Now the white pop up had done me all of the bigger fish to date. It had done me the wood carving, it had done the 28, it had done all of the bigger fish on white pop ups, and that was a theme that I'd noticed. That's the pattern I was referring to. And because I was getting more bites on the middle rod, I think one bite on the left-hand rod, that was it. The right-hand rod did a few bites, but so I always put the white pop-up on the middle rod just because I felt that that is doing the most bites as in that area. And I did have a bait very, very close to it as well. But the white pop-up I felt was the best chance of catching apples because all the bigger fish are on it. So I put that in the place that I was getting the most bites from because it just made sense to me. Something about that spot with this, if people talk about spot within a spot, you know, this was where these buoys are that I was saying about. There's 1, 2, 3. That middle buoy was pretty much bang on where I was catching them. And that was where I was fishing previously. So it's not that they've put it there and out of convenience I've fished to it because that's where I was fishing anyway.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they had gone, right, we're going to put those there because they're his markers, because they were where I was fishing anyway. So, and actually you could use them at night with your head torch to see where you cast and so you can get it right. So, yeah, that session I've done everything as normal.
Same bait preparation with
same bait prep. Yeah. So with the DNA, it's always the same, religious. White pop up in the middle. The left hand was a match to hatch pop up, and the right hand one was a match to hatch wafter. So again, it's fishing probably a foot to the right of the main bait. The bite, it just pulled up tight, same as before with the wood carving. Felt it, yeah, both strings tight, yeah. Lifted into it.
What time was this?
I think it was about 3 a.m, I think, from memory.
Is that consistent with other bites at that sort of time? Was there a window?
No. Do you know, in that swim, it was any time really. I mean, sometimes you'd get an early bite and you knew you were in for a few fish because it was early. But sometimes you'd have to wait out till 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock to get a bite, and then you know you're not really probably going to catch any. But it really could have been any time. Okay. Not like Peg 20, actually, weirdly, Peg 20, just going back, 3 o'clock in the morning, religiously was bite time, midnight and 3. So they were either, I think they were going in and coming out, and I was catching them as they go through. So leaving there at midnight, get bite, coming back at 3 in the morning for sunrise, get bite. They were religious. But anyway, so in this session, Rosa out at about 3 o'clock in the morning from memory, and it's pulled up tight. I just felt it. And it's not gone mad. It's not done a lot. It's just, this is big. This is
that heavy feeling.
This is different gravy. It was just really heavy, staying low in the water. It's not deep out there, but it was just staying low. And it's just moving, and I sort of just wind it in a bit, pull it back, and then it might go, I'm going now. Okay, just let it off a little bit. But it didn't flat rod me or anything like that. It wanted to go, and I'd let it go.
In your mind, having caught, some very special fish over the years, but you kind of know sometimes, don't you, when you're attached to a good one?
Yeah, I mean, I think I lost a fish called the Beast, which is the other big mirror. Because on that occasion it flat rodded me and the line snapped. That's because I was an idiot and left it in the line clip, and I didn't realise. It took me a few weeks to figure that one out. I thought the clutch was too tight, because when it flat rodded me, I was spitting, and it still hurts even now because I think that was the other big one. But anyway, so it's just wallowing about and just kind of doing its sweet thing and not really getting much closer. It felt like forever to get it in. And again, got it in quite close, and then it sort of moved a little bit. And all the while, every time it flicks off the fins, you know you're attached to a good one.
Did you wade it out into the lake at this point, like the others as well, kind of moved down?
Yeah, same old, yeah. So down the right-hand margin, and again, got it, just got its face. So I'd actually forgotten my head torch this session. I'd just built this shed, and things were scattered about all over the place, and I forgot the head torch and something else. I forget what it was now, but I've forgotten that. So I'm in the lake by a little bit of sparse moonlight, see the fish, just get it so it's just kissing the spreader block, and again lifted the net, half the tail's hanging out again, shuffle the rest in, and again same, got it to the edge. And first thing, as soon as it went in the net, and knowing it's a big fish, I've glanced at it, and you can't get perspective in the dark looking by moonlight.
No.
You could see the length of the back, or what's sort of sticking up out of the water a little bit. And I thought, well, that's an upper 20, might be a 30. Again, same. So got it to the edge, looked at it, turned it on its side, and instantly I thought, I think that might be apples. Because it was really deep.
Yeah.
But I thought, I think that might be apples. And again, I kind of sort of thought, well, it can't be apples. So once again, I've got the scales because I've got to weigh it. So I weighed it 47. It swung around to 47 pounds. So it's, new PB. And again, clearly it is apples. So like you do, because you still can't believe it, going through the phone, looking at the photos.
Yes, definitely that.
And then of course I put it in the retainer, and the margins are a decent depth there. It's, the water wasn't especially warm a few weeks ago, so it's in the margin there, and and I'm stressing. There's no way I'm going back to sleep because I'm scared that it's going to get out or something bad's going to happen. So, and then I was sort of sitting there, what time's decent I can message people? When can I, I don't want to wake anyone up.
Well, I think you tried to wake me up at pretty silly o'clock in the morning. I tried Joe, but he was filming with Miles on Dinton. Miles had 40, so he said, I can't make it over. He tried to make a few calls. Scotty was looking after his boy, so he couldn't come down. I'd messaged Dan, and I kind of didn't even think to ask him to come because I knew he was fishing. And he got back to me. He's like, "Mate, have you got someone doing the photos?" And I said, "I'm struggling with that." And he said, "Look, I'll come down." I said, well, you don't have to. Don't worry. I've done a couple of self takes on the mat, and he said, "You can't self take a 40-pounder." I did a few shots on the bank. They were all right, but it was hard work. Like, I've got the Rhino release pedal, which makes it easier. You got two hands to hold the fish, but it was so heavy. And I don't really want to be handling a big fish on my own on the bank like that in case something goes wrong, Of course, yeah.
So I wanted to do water shots, but I kind of wanted someone there just because I've had it before. You go to do water shots and suddenly the fish bucks and it's gone.
Course,
I can't risk that. This is too special. So you have to as well. You've got to report all fish over 30. I think it's over 30 pounds. You have to report to the bailiffs, and they'll just go, "Yeah, no problem at all." But if it's a really good one, they want to come and validate the weight and stuff. So
is that a phone call or do you?
I messaged Andy. I've got a good relationship with Andy, and I always message him anyway and just chat and stuff. So I messaged him and said what happened. I think I just put an apples emoji and just I've got her or something. So so he called me and they said that we're going to get the bailiff to come down. So John come down and they wanted to reweigh the fish. So we got it up on the bar. The needle was going about like Billy-O, but he said that 40. I think he gave it 46.8 in the end, which I said, "John, I don't care.
Don't care at that point. Splitting hairs, it's the chunk, isn't it?
It's the one I wanted. I really got that fussed.
Yeah.
So I'll take it, sort of thing. So and then it went back in the sling and we waited. Dan come down. So Dan had my Canon, I had the Sony with the release pedal under my arm. So we're both firing off shots again. So I got loads of shots, and actually I can take a picture, but you kind of worry that you won't do it properly. So having that second person alleviated me of any stress and worry. And he did some great shots on the Canon. I did some lovely shots on the Sony. All in all, I've got loads of decent pictures. Could there have been better if Joe come down? Probably, but it is what it is. And
your pictures are always very good. So
but no, Dan did a really good job, and he got some nice shots, and it was all good. And just as well, just having someone there to sort of be a calm and influence, because I'm buzzing my nuts off. It's like the fish of a lifetime that I didn't dare to think I could catch. It was just nice to have someone there to sort of just control things and slow everything a little bit down.
Well, you did catch it, and very well done. It is an absolutely awesome looking carp from such an iconic venue with so much history and so many challenges, as you kind of described earlier. I guess the only other question really is where to next.
I've got a few irons in the fire, shall we say?
Right.
There's a few, I've got the feelers out. There's a couple of places, got my name down a few places, but I mean, there's another place the wait list is closed, it's Dead Man's Shoes, but I've got somebody who fishes there who's heard a word, and potentially that might come up or not. So again, I've got three possibilities on the cards, but it's one of those things you don't want to overcommit, because if they've all come up at once, you're kind of screwed, really.
I guess sort of coming off the back of a sort of a pretty hefty campaign for you, like the one you've just done. It's almost nice to take 5 minutes as well, right? And just fish a few different places, just to, mellow maybe.
Yeah, I mean, so I did my last session on Tuesday, just gone.
Up in Virginia.
Yeah. So my wife said, "Well, you've had the big one. You don't need to go back, do you, stupid woman?" What she's talking about. So I did another session after this. So again, actually, what I didn't say at the time, that when I caught apples, I had 3 sessions to go before I was done.
Right.
So it was written in stars. It was always meant to be. So I fished a week before, so the week after apples, week before this one, and I lost a fish. So for the first time ever, it managed to pick up the other line that's really close to it, and in doing so, the fish come off. So and it felt all right. They always do, but it felt all right. And then this week just gone, I went down and I had a 27 common. So again, finished with a decent fish.
Nice sign.
But you know what? I had a bream, and bearing in mind this was Tuesday, it was 5th November. It's bonfire night. You couldn't see a thing. Like literally, there was no moon. It's proper cloudy. There was a smog covering everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I got this bream, and I've got to get the rod back out. It's the middle rod, and you've got to drill it right down the centre, knowing there's one right close to it. And I couldn't see the marker buoys because it's really, really dark and bad visibility. It took a few casts to get it back out, because I eventually caught a glimpse of it, got it back out. And you have to tighten everything down. So you unclip it, tighten it all down. If it's wrong, you've got to re-wrap it out, get it back out, tighten it back up again. And then I get in the water and look at the lines as they're going into the water, see where they're pointing. Once it's fully sunk and tightened and all the rest of it, and then you know where it is. So did that, then had the 27 common. I got him in the net, and then as he was in the net, the remaining rod that's right close to it dropped back. This bite, weirdly, so this common lifted up, and as I went towards it, it dropped back. Thought it's a line bite, so stopped, and just tied it up a little bit, lifted the bobbin slightly, dropped back again. I thought that was a bream. So anyway, so that was the common. This one's dropped back, so I'm thinking could be another carp. So lifted straight into it, nothing on there. So I've been done by another carp, or it's a bream. Yeah. So that was done. So now I've got to get 2 rods back out. Still got a chance of a fish before it gets too light. So I've then had to put both rods out again, casting in the dark, not a huge gap, get 1 rod out, great. Now you've got to get the other rod out. It took probably 7-8 casts. Yeah. And again, you got to wait till you got a little bit of clarity enough with the head torch to see enough of the white buoy to be able to get it out there. So yeah, hard casting, but you've got to do it. And that's the thing, you can prop the rod on the bivvy and you won't catch any more carp. If it's in the lake, you've got a chance. So, always got to be trying, haven't you?
Definitely.
So yeah, so that was it. So I fished out on the 27 common, and yeah, always the same thing. I leave the lake, pat the floor, see you later, and off I go out the gates. But you know what? For all its faults and everything I said about the public and the dog walks and all the rest of it, in the evenings, once that park clears out, it is just the nicest. The best way I can describe it, and I've said it before, it's just a lovely place to be. It's just you and the wildlife. It's just such a nice place. The deer come out to play. The sunsets on there are phenomenal. The sunrises can be great too. It just is a beautiful place to be. And I've thoroughly enjoyed being there.
Fantastic memories, and I'm sure that new PB will take something, in not only from a weight perspective, but also from a memories perspective. So
for sure, yeah. I don't just target fish because they're big. I didn't know when I joined that fish existed. I didn't know a lot about the place, and you couldn't get a lot off the internet either. So it's one of those things, you just go there to catch fish. And I heard there was some good fish in there, but I didn't know them. And once I'd seen it, I wanted it, sort of thing. Yeah. But there's so many lakes of fish like that where you go there. I go there because they're old, or I go there because they've got a bit of a history. And if they're big, that's just an added bonus. But I wouldn't want to go and just catch fish just because they're big. But give it, with all these stockies, and as they get bigger, a few years down the line, that ticket's going to be the one. But we won't be able to afford a ticket like that because it'll just keep going up because the fish are getting bigger. It's $7.25 now, I think. So once you've got a handful of 40s in there, which there will be before 5 years are out, I would think that's going to be a good ticket.
Definitely one that you're glad you've been on now.
never go back. And he said to me, Andy come down to see me on the last night, and he said, look, if you want to come back for the next couple of years, just call me. It's not a problem. And I said to him right there and then, that's really nice, and I very much appreciate it. But I've always said never go back, because it's never the same. So it would be nice, and I will miss it. I really like leaving there that day. Was just, it tore at me a little bit, and I will miss it, because it's like you've invested so much into it.
Yeah.
So much emotion, so much effort. And like I say, like the swim closures, the car park closures, even they closed the whole South Bank, like during the prime part of the season one year. I think that was my third year on there, and the dog walkers and the public and the questions and the dog's mess and the wind and the distances to swims and the bream and just everything. There's so much you've got to get through. And all of that builds to the thing, it's when you catch that fish, all of that, it doesn't matter. All that effort, all the times that you felt you've been kicked in the nuts, doesn't matter anymore, because you caught that fish. Forgotten. And it's just, it's all part of the journey, isn't it? And actually, it's all those things that make it such a big thing that you've done. If it was easy, it just wouldn't even.
You can't have the good without the bad.
Of course you can't. And I think sometimes you feel like you're owed something, you don't get it, and it sort of hurts a little bit. You think, oh, put all this effort in, I deserve better than that.
Yeah.
And sometimes you catch fish that you didn't deserve. But I don't believe in luck so much, but I do think you make your luck. I believe in good fortune, and I think, it was written in the stars. It just the way this season panned out. Yes, I was having a lot of blanks, but I was catching a good amount of fish, more than a quarter any other time, any other year. But you make your luck, and I think the lake knew. I decided I was going. It sounds ridiculous. I decided I was going. The lake was paying me back, and it paid me back with interest.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much, Tel, and wish you all the best for the next big adventure, wherever it may be.
That's it. I'll be taking crustacean with me.
Yeah. White pop-ups.
Yes, white pop-ups. Yeah, the white bubblegum pop-ups. Special made.
Excellent.
Cheers.
Cheers.